Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Special Baat LAJA ke Saath. This is me, Vandana Joshil, inviting you to the special talk. And as always, I'll keep saying the word special because this talk today is very, very special. LAJA, as you all know, is a forum for women, a space where we give women a non-judgmental, non-judging space to be themselves. You could be from any walk of life, you could be from any economical strata, but this is a place where you can be yourself, you can learn from others, you can be inspired by others, and over time you can inspire others too. So this special talk is a conclusion to this month's theme. And this month's theme was on declutter. So, when we talk about declutter, the first thought that comes to our mind is decluttering your physical space. So, we've spoken about cleaning out our wardrobe, about rearranging our furniture. But what about what's most important? What about decluttering your mind? And as a woman, what about decluttering your relationships? We are bogged down with so many thoughts and we are juggling between so many relationships. How do we handle all of that? We need to clear our minds and our hearts too. And to talk about this with Laja at the special Baat Laja ke Saath is a very, very special guest. Let me bring her on screen first and then I'll introduce her to you. So, welcome, Suzy Singh.
Thank you, Vandana and Team LAJA. It's a privilege to be here.
Thank you. So, let me tell you a little bit more about Suzy Singh. Suzy Singh is an emotional and mental well being coach at Suzyheals. She's a YouTube edu mentor. She's a speaker and author of the international best selling book, Seven Karma Codes Heal the Storm Within. The Italian edition of the book was launched recently in Italy. She's also a professional advisor to the NGO We Listen on mental health and is a certified partner therapist at Life Positive. Besides providing personal counseling sessions, Suzy also provides life coaching and mentoring. She writes extensively for various publications on well-being. She speaks at webinars, panels, and wellness summits, conducts workshops and e-courses. She has an exclusive YouTube channel where she provides valuable mentoring and guidance on a wide range of issues. And her experience speaks for itself. She has helped thousands of people across the globe. Talk about USA, UK, Australia, Germany, Dubai, Kuwait, Singapore, and of course, India. And she has helped these people find clarity, purpose, happiness, relief from stress, better health, improved relationships, and enhanced productivity. She has also received the Bharat Excellence Award for Alternative Healing in 2012. And that, my friends, is Suzy Singh for you. So, welcome once again. And without wasting any further time, let us jump right into the questions because this is a very heavy topic and this is something that I want everybody to listen to. So, my first question to you is let's talk. The first and the foremost question that comes to my mind is what do we mean by decluttering our mind and our relationships? Over to you.
So, Vandana, I'd like to answer that question in two parts. First, I'll address what it means to declutter the mind, and then we'll come to what it means to declutter our relationships. Now,
Absolutely.
when we think of decluttering a cupboard, for example, we would ideally remove all the contents, place them on a bed, examine them, see what we want to keep, what we want to discard, etc. The big challenge when it comes to decluttering the mind is that the contents are invisible. So the very first thing we need to do is to be able to observe our own minds and become aware of the thoughts and the feelings that are passing through us. And most of the clutter in our minds comes from the emotional and mental stresses that we have. Most often we are
Absolutely.
not aware of these things, which is why, as you mentioned, we tend to overthink, we tend to be anxious, and in many cases we are not even aware that we are anxious because that becomes our default setting as women. We're doing so much.
Yes.
And so, what is the process by which we can understand how to declutter the mind is something that I'd like to call farming our consciousness. Now let's just examine those two words. When I say the word consciousness, it comes from the word being conscious or being aware of my thoughts and my feelings. And when we talk about farming, it involves broadly 5 steps. So if we have a patch of land and we want to farm it, we'll start by removing all the rocks, and then we will plough the soil, we will sow seeds of our choice, we will water and tend to those seeds, we will remove unwanted weeds, and finally then we can enjoy a happy harvest. Now,
Absolutely.
when we talk about farming consciousness, how does this apply? So, the very first thing is, what are the rocks of consciousness that create the clutter in our minds? And the foremost rock that I'd like to talk about is anger. Now, whenever any one of us get angry about something and we act out that anger, that creates a physiological ripple in our bodies that actually lasts from 6 hours to up to 3 days. That outburst of anger could be momentary. It could happen in just a few seconds, and you expressed it, and you think it's over, but it's not, because the two stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, will continue to flow through your body for up to 3 days, like I said. And what does that do to you? What that is doing is, firstly, it immediately brings down your immunity. It makes you hungry, so you want to eat a lot more. And for women who constantly are in circumstances or situations where they tend to get angry and they will either bottle it up, but the anger is still inside of them, they will tend to eat more, which then makes them obese. And the obesity causes its own set of anxieties and worries. So we can see layers and layers of clutter. Besides, this particular cortisol also affects women in a very serious way, besides the weight gain, which is it causes deterioration of the bone density. And therefore, we can be, as women, more susceptible to falls and all sorts of fractures and problems, and particularly if we are postmenopausal. So we have to understand that when we get angry, we are acting out that anger, we think that it is not clouding our brain because we think we've got it off our chest. But actually what it's doing is, with the way the physiology of the body is designed, it continues to cloud your mind and clutter your mind for the next 3 days. Now, I'm not suggesting that anger is abnormal, but more harmful than actually acting your anger out is something that most of us women do, and that is suppressing anger. What happens when जब हम पी जाते हैं अपना गुस्सा, तो क्या होता है? And we find in research studies across the world that women who are more prone to, or who have suffered from breast cancer or from rheumatoid arthritis, they had one common aspect reported across every single person who came down with it, and that was that they suppressed their anger. तो हम गुस्सा पी जाते हैं, पर वो खाली नहीं होता mind. Declutter nahi hota mind. It doesn't end there. It just stays inside of us and it clutters the mind even further. And therefore, it becomes really, really important for us to be able to attend to that anger in a healthy way. Now, in the olden times, I think we had outlets because we had women who had closer bonds with the joint family system. So there'd be some sister-in-law, there'd be some cousin, there'd be somebody that you could talk to and went to, and you'd feel lighter about it. कि दिल हल्का हो जाता था, पर अब नहीं होता है. So now what is important is that we need to have somebody who we feel safe with, who we know will not judge us. But unfortunately, a lot of women tend to be very guarded because they are also the keepers of family honor. So घर की बात घर में रहनी चाहिए, वो बचपन से माँ की conditioning है कि बेटा घर की बात बाहर किसी से मत करना. But I'm urging women, if you have a very close friend that you feel safe with, please talk about the things that make you angry. Don't bottle it up, and don't act it out, because that is going to, of course, it's going to destroy your ecosystem and create problems in your relationships. But more importantly, it is going to clutter your mind, body, spirit. So that is the first big rock that we need to remove. The
Yes.
second aspect, the rock of consciousness I want to talk about, is comparison and jealousy. What that tends to do is create a feeling of scarcity, a not enoughness. It makes me feel like I'm not good enough in some way. And therefore, if we can drop this need to compare, उसकी साड़ी मेरी साड़ी से सफेद क्यों, इसको drop करना है. Okay, because
Yes.
this is just going to lead me into a whole brooding sort of overthinking problem, that मेरे घर में तो ये नहीं है, उसके पास तो ये है, and it's cluttering my mind. So can we drop
Absolutely.
jealousy and comparison? The third rock of the consciousness is regrets and complaints. The what
Big.
if thing. What if I had taken a different decision in my life? What if I had chosen to do something differently? अगर मैंने इससे शादी नहीं की होती, अगर मैंने वो अपना कोर्स कंप्लीट कर लिया होता, अगर मैंने अपने बच्चे टाइम से कर लिए होते या डिले करके किए होते और अपनी ambitions पूरी कर ली. So many what ifs that we have in our lives, regrets we have in
Absolutely.
our lives. But the thing is that this keeps us stuck in the past. It will free up our mental state if we say, okay, maybe this is a list of things that I would like to do, and how can I make that possible today? So let us not stay with the regrets. Let us choose rather to be in a state where we are empowered to aaj kya kar sakte hain. And
Absolutely.
the fourth rock of consciousness is again a sensitive topic. It is unhealthy gossip. Now, a lot of times, it is proven through all the research that women tend to bond over unhealthy gossip about a third person who's not present on the scene. But the fact remains that when we do that, what are we filling our minds with? We are filling our minds with negativity, which is going to
Mm.
lower our vibrational capacity. And there is only that much energy that we have. See, every time that I speak, I'm expending my life force energy. Do I want to spend that energy talking ill about someone that is not only going to impact them energetically, but is also going to deplete my energy? Can't I use that more constructively?
Absolutely.
So the suggestion is that can we eliminate unhealthy gossip, and can we bond with our girlfriends over more constructive conversations? So these are the four rocks: your anger, your jealousy and comparisons, your regrets and complaints, and your unhealthy gossip. If we
Unhealthy.
can remove these from our lives, then now हमने अपनी माइंड फील्ड को तैयार कर लिया. अब इसको प्लाव कैसे करें? And there I feel that we need to make a very concrete effort to sit down and ask ourselves, what are the values that I want my life to stand for? What are those things that are important to me? And I think each one of us should ask ourselves, what kind of person do I want to be? Or more importantly, that how do I want to be remembered when I pass? Now, this is
Wow.
a very long-term vision, but it allows you tunnel vision. You're able to look back and able to see कि अगर मुझे इन वैल्यूज के लिए स्टैंड करना है तो मैं आज अपना जीवन कैसे जी रही. That is the
True.
second. That's how we end up plowing the mind field. We segregate the things that we do to try and please other people or to fit into somebody else's expectations. And we say, no, I have decided the values that my life is going to stand for, and I'm going to live by my values, not somebody else's expectations. So this again will declutter my mind. Now, the third thing is, what seeds do I want to sow? मैंने अपने माइंड से रॉक्स निकाल दिए, मैंने अपने माइंड्स में अपने माइंड की सॉइल को प्लाउ कर दिया. नाउ what seeds do I want to sow? And I can speak personally for myself. There are 4 kinds of seeds that I have committed myself to sowing in my life. And these 4 are: I have chosen to be a more loving person. I have chosen to be a more forgiving person. I've chosen to be more compassionate, and I've chosen to be more peaceful. Now, I know these are very tall orders. Even when I had decided or
Yes.
taken a decision that these are the 4 that I am going to sow, and these are the trees that I want to grow in my mind, I realized that it would take a lot of inner work. But having committed to that, what happens is that when I am faced with a crisis, let's say I'm having a conflict with someone, let's say I've had an argument with my spouse, I am immediately reminded of, Suzy, what seeds have you chosen to sow? Because even though I may be feeling hurt, even though I may be feeling bad or offended about something, I am able to quickly center back that my commitment is to peace. Now, what do I need to do to restore peace? Or my commitment is to be more forgiving. And of course, there'll be degrees of forgiveness. They will increase as my own capacity increases, or they will increase as my practice increases. But at least I know that these are my values and these are the seeds that I'm choosing to sow. And so I don't get lost in my own emotional reactions. So now I'm not living as a victim of my reactions. I am living according to the seeds that I want to sow. कि मुझे अपने जीवन से क्या फल चाहिए, मैं उसी हिसाब से अपना जीवन जी रही हूँ. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Continue, and then I'll ask you my question after.
Yes,
Please
I will.
continue.
I will finish the 5 steps, and then we will break for the
Yes.
questions. So
Yeah.
now I've sown the seeds very clearly. The fourth next step is that I have to water these, and I have to give them the right conditions to grow, which means that every single day of my life, रोज कोई ना कोई trigger तो मेरे जीवन में आएगा. You know, when those triggers come, if I can think back about my values, if I can think back about the seeds that I'm sowing, then it empowers me, it gives me a direction, it gives me a goal on how to increase my own inner practice. मुझे अपनी साधना बना लेना है उस चीज को कि how strong is my practice today. So that is how I'm going to tend to my seeds. And the fifth is a very important one, which is removing unwanted weeds. And there are three kinds of weeds that I think are really important for us to weed or to let go of. The first one is future anxiety, fearful anxiety about the future. जो मैं चाहती हूँ अपने जीवन से वो होगा या नहीं होगा, बच्चों के बारे में, घर के बारे में, or whatever dreams I have for my family, for myself, we tend to get very fearful about the future. And I'm suggesting that instead of being fearful, if you must live in the future and not in the present, can you at least have a positive feeling of कि ये होगा और जरूर होगा और इसको करने के लिए आज मुझे जो करना है, I'm ready to take all those steps.
Okay.
Rather than feeding your fearful imagination of the future. It's ideal if we can do all the things that are required to be done and then stop worrying. You know, we've done the karma and now we will wait for the result to happen. The second thing is, why me questions? Whenever we encounter difficulties or any sort of adversity in our life, then we are filled with, why did this happen to me? I'm such a good person. I've done all the right things in my life. Why is this person being so mean to me? The thing is that there are no answers to why me. This is happening. This is the reality of my life. The more time I invest in why me, the more I'm going to brood, the more I'm going to obsess. I'm going to use up my entire mind force energy in worrying about something that you never find an answer to. It is better to just drop it and move on, drop it and move on. And the third aspect that we have to read is judgment and blame. Now, all of these three things are simply going to take us down into a vortex of negativity. They become obsessive compulsive. This is the reason for the overthinking. Either there is fear, or we are judging and blaming somebody, or we are filled with ये ऐसा क्यों हुआ मेरे साथ. अगर हम इन तीन वीड्स को रेगुलरली रोजाना निकालते जाएंगे, क्लियर करते जाएंगे, तो उतनी एनर्जी हमारे लिए अवेलेबल होती चली जाएगी. एंड to that degree, we will reduce the amount of emotional, mental stress, creating more mental space for ourselves to do the things that we want to or to be more peaceful.
Wow. Wow. That was so amazing, and I love the analogy, of farming and what you do with your mind. But whatever you have said, I've realized that one needs to have a level of consciousness for that. You need to be conscious of what you want, what you're seeking. And now, since we are talking about women, women are generally there's so many things happening to us every day, happening around us, to us, within us, outside of us. The way our hormones behave, the way our relationships behave, everything. So do you think women can really declutter life and declutter relationships? It's a tall order, but is it something that's possible?
So, decluttering relationships, I will come to a little later. Let me first answer, because you posed this question to me: is it even possible for them to declutter relationships? So the thing is that I know that women have been assigned with this, I'll call it, burden of being the keepers of relationships and being keepers of homes. But the thing is, when we think back to our grandmothers' times, and at that point in time, the portfolios were very clearly divided between grandma and grandpa. So grandmother was looking after the home, cleaning, clearing, cooking, nourishing the children, looking after them, giving them love, giving them attention, all of that. And grandpa went out, he worked, he brought the money home, land, property, taxation, बच्चों को settle करना है, बच्चों की शादी कहाँ करनी है, रिश्ता कहाँ करना है. That entire portfolio was managed by grandfather. If you can
Yes.
see, perfect balance in life, right? And when we talk about decluttering, what are we really talking about is creating equal space for all people, right?
Yes.
So when we are talking about creating space in relationships, space is only possible, or decluttering is only possible, if we have balanced portfolios. Now, when we look at life today, what has happened? A large chunk of the grandfather's portfolio has been taken over by the woman, but a large chunk of the woman's portfolio has not been taken over by the man, the grandmother's
Yes.
portfolio. Right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
the very first thing that we need to do is to rebalance the portfolio. And I want to invite everyone who is listening to this conversation to explore the possibility of getting our partners, our spouses, other members of the family to collaborate in the process of becoming keepers of relationships and keepers of the home. Because I think we have, everything is contextual. At grandma's time, that balanced portfolio fit that context very well of how life was. In today's context of life, I think it's important we don't genderize roles and responsibilities, but we treat them in a more collaborative way. So, my suggestion is that women should share more responsibilities. Women should draw healthy boundaries. And this is one aspect that I think we all suffer from extremely, particularly even when it comes to emotional boundaries, we never draw them. So very often I have heard a mother, if a child is ill, she say, "Hey Prabhu, mujhe bimar kar do, mere bacche ko theek kar do." Our prayers are like that. So we want to
Yes.
absorb our husband's stresses. We want to absorb the children's stresses. Ghar mein koi bimar hai, in-laws bimar hai. So we are very happy burden carriers, very self-sacrificing. Now we have to understand that we have to stop doing that, because we have to become collaborators. We can't become boj dhone wala donkey alone,
Absolutely.
because then we are increasing our own stresses, and there's going to be a price to pay for that. We don't realize that. I mean, I spoke about anger, and I spoke about how later in age women come down with all sorts of diseases. There are many other costs that we pay. So can we share responsibilities? Can we seek support from our partners? And I can speak personally, Vandana. I remember 3 years ago, for forever, I was handling the financial portfolio and the property issues in the family. But I sat my husband down and I explained to him, and I said, now I've done this for several years. I want to focus, I need more bandwidth to focus on my spiritual pursuits. So I'm going to hand over this portfolio to you. And like one would do an official handover, we sat down 3 days. I handed over all the files, the background, the details, everything. And I said, Ab aap handle karoge. I am free from this. मेरी मुक्ति हो गई for the next few years. और आप सही करो, गलत करो. I'm always available as a consultant. You can come and ask me, but it's not my responsibility. And he handled it beautifully. In fact, I had to be careful that I didn't judge him when he made an error. You
Exactly.
see?
Yes, I was just coming to that.
Yeah.
I think it is one of the biggest problems that we women have is that even when we delegate, we are not completely letting go. So if I ask my husband to make tea for me, I'm going to be sitting in the hall wondering, उन्होंने बराबर चाय पत्ती डाली होगी क्या, मसाले उधर ही रखे थे उन्होंने डाली क्या, you know, दूध कम डाला होगा, I am sure. Why am I judging him, or why am I even sitting here? I've told him to make tea, आने दो चाय, and then decide whether it's good or bad. But I think that is one big problem that we women have, that we don't really let go, you know.
Absolutely.
Even
So
you
we
mentioned,
don't, हम
yes,
अपना भाव बदल सकते हैं ना, कि अगर अगर एंड आई एम गोइंग टू से पति परमेश्वर चाय बना के ला रहा है तो हम उसको प्रसाद की तरह दे सकते हैं.
no, this is where we want to change the dialogue. We want to change, you know, we had one of our speakers had spoken about how, you know, pati, there was an age when pati was considered the parmeshwar, but now you have to realize that with the pati, the kind of work he does, women are also doing that. So pati ko parmeshwar ke, you know, darje se utar ke, let him be human, let you act and react
No, no,
and
no.
interact with him like that.
वंदना, आई हैव अ सजेशन. मैंने ये नहीं बोला कि वो किसके लिए चाय बना के ला रहा है. वो भी तो देवी के लिए चाय बना के ला रहे हैं.
Yes, that sounds, you know,
अपनी
like something that I
अपनी
like.
अपनी अपनी अर्धांगिनी के लिए चाय बना के ला रहे हैं. So you know,
Yes,
she, we are the feminine goddess and he is the feminine god. So
yes,
it has to be equal, because I'm talking about collaboration.
yes, absolutely. You know, we have a couple of people who have joined us. We have Ranjini who says hello. We have Bijal. We have Shreya. We have Prerna. Prerna has also put in a question. And before I go to Prerna's questions, there's Shubhashri who says, Suzy, ma'am, you're phenomenal. I'm bowled over by your thoughts. So that is Shubhashri for you.
Thank you, Sumi. Thank you so much.
And there's Prerna. Prerna saying the main problem these days is judging and blaming. What hurts more is when your own family members blame you. So Prerna has a problem with that, about people in her family blaming her, judging her.
So, what I'd like to say about being feeling blamed is that it's a human behavior. Nobody wants to own the blame, because there is a feeling that if I own the blame, then I will be in trouble. This all starts in childhood conditioning, you know. So when children have been brought up in ways where there's been a punitive upbringing, या छोटी छोटी बात पे उनको डांटा जाता है या पनिश किया जाता है, तो वो अपनी गलती मानना मुश्किल हो जाता है लोगों के. And most of us, we know that at some point or the other, we've all been disciplined by the parent. And so we find it's very difficult for people to own the blame. It takes a lot of, I would say, inner work and spiritual progress to be able to accept your mistake. But if you're feeling hurt, then my suggestion is that at that point in time, don't say anything. उस समय चुप रहें. पर बाद में, when the other person is in a more conducive, when he's feeling safe, that's the point in time to be able to go and say, this really hurt me because I hadn't done this. And or explain yourself in a conducive way, because in a relationship, having open conversations, transparent conversations, understanding and being understood are very, very important, and they have to be cultivated. A lot of people think कि ये automatically हो जाना चाहिए, पर एक जो रिश्ता होता है, relationship होती है, that is like a homa. You have to keep putting samagri into that relationship, you know, to keep the fire alive. तो जब तक आप उस रिलेशनशिप में अपनी अंडरस्टैंडिंग, अपनी कॉन्वर्सेशन, अपना ट्रांसपेरेंसी, अपना ट्रस्ट नहीं डालेंगे और बार बार उसमें मेहनत नहीं करेंगे, तब तक अंडरस्टैंडिंग एंड बीइंग अंडरस्टूड डज नॉट हैपन. So please communicate. Maybe the other person doesn't even realize, the other family members don't even realize the impact that it has on her. And very often क्या
Yes.
होता है कि हम पी जाते हैं वो बात, to maintain the harmony in the family, we think let's not raise it, or chalo raat gayi baat gayi khatam ho gaya, let me not bring it up. But I think it is very important, even when we bring up that dialogue, don't be blaming. Don't. So how we talk to them is very important. It's not aapne ye kaha aur ye galat tha. It's I felt hurt when you said this. So
Wow.
how we communicate is very important.
Very, very true. Very true. That's it's such a valid and such an important point that you have made. Now we have discussed mind. We have discussed. Let's come to what has been, the relationships that we want to talk about. How do women, and this is more so very, very important because when a girl gets married and the general the first dialogue is लड़की घर बना भी सकती है बिगाड़ भी सकती है. So if there's any problem in the in-laws place, the her home that she is married into, the first thought is अच्छा लड़की नहीं आई है, so that has what has caused the problem. So we women, knowingly or unknowingly, or maybe we are conditioned so, we take on the responsibility of handling all the relationships, of maintaining harmony throughout. But over time, we have to realize, I have personally realized that there are some relationships you need to let go. But how do
बिल्कुल.
we do that? How do we do that?
So, when we declutter home, what do we create? We create more space. And when we declutter our relationships, what we are going to end up creating is more energy for ourselves, more emotional and mental well being, and more peace for ourselves. To declutter these relationships, there is a process, a threefold process. Firstly, I suggest that we take stock of all the relationships that we are encountering in our lives. The second step is to segment them into 4 different categories. And the third step is to have a different energy investment strategy. What do I mean? कि हम कितनी एनर्जी किस रिलेशनशिप में डालेंगे उसको हम डिफाइन कर लें ताकि हमें क्लियर हो जाए हाउ मच ऑफ माई सेल्फ एम आई गोइंग टू गिव इन टू दैट रिलेशनशिप सो आई एम नॉट फीलिंग resentful or terrible about how much I give to that relationship. So, what are these 4 categories? Very simply, they are useful relationships, they are harmful relationships, they are dharmic, and they are karmic relationships. Useful
Okay.
relationships वो हैं जिनमें we feel fully honored, where there is an equal flow of love, giving and receiving. There is equal reciprocation. People show up in our lives, and there is a general healthy happiness in that equation. I suggest that we treat this like a high return investment. So we can happily give of ourselves as much as we want to, knowing कि ये तो हमेशा this person shows up for me, this person is there for me, उतना confidence है, these are your 4 a.m. friends or these are the people के कभी भी कोई दिक्कत हो, when I go to this person, I know she's there for me or he's there for me. Second is your harmful relationships. Now, these are your toxic relationships where you're every time you meet these people, you come away feeling small, you come away feeling not good about yourself, or you feel deeply criticized, or you feel horrible about yourself. And I suggest that ye relationships, these are pure energy expenses. They are wasteful. So we must examine. If we have the possibility, then we must disconnect them from them entirely, just starve them off. And if we can't, for some reason, disconnect from them, then we have to minimize our energy investment into them. Hi, hello, kaise hain? Bas limited interaction rakhe usme. Or kuch nahi, no expectation and limited interaction. Then we come to our dharmic relationships. These are relationships where we are duty bound. And we must treat whatever investment of energy we make into these relationships as donations. These are energy gifts, which really means we should have zero expectation of any reciprocation in these relationships. We should treat whatever we put into these relationships with an attitude of seva bhav or dan dakshina. And we should only put that much energy into this relationship, which we can do without being resentful. Because everybody has a different capacity of generosity. किसी के पास ज़्यादा है, किसी के पास कम है. And a very famous doctor once said that in relationships, if you have to choose between doing too much and being resentful or doing little and being guilty, it is preferable to be guilty than to be resentful. So that is my suggestion कि आप उतना ही दीजिए जितनी आपकी capacity है अपने धार्मिक relationships में से, so that you don't feel bad. You're doing for them, but you know this is my dharma, this is my duty, and this is a donation. You don't expect a return on donations, right?
Wow.
The fourth category is the hardest one. These are your karmic relationships. They are likely to be closer relationships. They are likely to be the ones in which you get hurt, upset, your expectations are not met. बार बार आपको चुभता है, तकलीफ होती है. And yet, you have to nurture them and you have to give of yourself in them. I suggest that you treat these like long-term energy investments, because these are the relationships in which you still have karmic redemptions to do. कोई पुराना हिसाब किताब चुकता करना है. There is lessons that you need to learn. There are virtue capacities you need to develop, like forgiveness, fortitude, tolerance. So when you learn those capacities, which will happen over a period of time, when you will feel hurt and you will forgive people, etc., तो वो return आपको तब मिलेगा. But आज आपको क्या करना है? Practice thrift with your energy. What do I mean? Practice thrift. It means कि जब भी आप कोई बात होती है, आपको चुभती है, you feel hurt about something, please minimize your reactions. Practice self-preservation. उतना एक्सपोजर अपने आप को मत ना दें, उतना अपना दिल ना खोलें, अपने दिल की बात इतनी ना करने के बाद में वो आपको लगे कि मैंने ज्यादा बोल दिया, सब कुछ बता दिया और अब वो ऑनर ही नहीं हो रहा है, रिस्पेक्ट ही नहीं हो रही है मेरी. सो ओनली प्रैक्टिस सेल्फ प्रिजर्वेशन एंड रिड्यूस योर रिएक्शंस. And you can do that in 3 ways. I call that the 3P strategy. पहली बात, don't poke and provoke the other person. क्योंकि कई बार हम भी तो human हैं, we are not superhuman. So if I'm feeling that a certain person is causing me pain, I will unconsciously want to poke them and cause them pain. But we have to come into awareness that no, I should not provoke them. The second thing is, whenever there is a conflict or there is a disagreement, don't prolong it. Drop it, move on, drop it, move on. And the third aspect is, don't personalize it, because when some argument happens or when a fight happens or a disagreement happens, ugly things are spoken. And if we take them to our hearts and we personalize and we own them and we keep them like ये तो बहुत precious कोई चीज है, तो वो हमें ही तकलीफ करेगी. It's like an arrow that will keep pricking me. So don't personalize it. So this is the 4 different strategies. Now, if we have identified कि इस रिश्ते में मुझे सिर्फ इतनी एनर्जी डालनी है, इस रिश्ते से मेरी एक्सपेक्टेशन 0 है, इस रिश्ते से तो मुझे हाई हेलो से ज्यादा जाना ही नहीं है, और जो मेरे कार्मिक रिलेशनशिप में है, इनमें मुझे ड्रॉप एंड मूव ऑन एंड डोंट पर्सनलाइज है. So I will be able to declutter my relationships because I have a very clear goal in each relationship and how much of myself I'm going to invest in them.
Wow, that was so interesting. For a second, I completely, was क्या बोलते हैं, ले जाते हैं ना, that kind of a feeling. We've had a couple of questions here also. We have Swati who's saying, that's so true, ma'am. But when you're talking to people, they don't really understand it. They're not open for a conversation. And if you try to express yourself, I think she is responding to what you told Prerna about when somebody blames you, you have to sit with them and probably later talk about it. So she's saying this, if you do tend to address the issue, when people say that it's a dramebaz hai, drama kar rahi hai, or an excuse.
So when that happens, see, now she's not being honored in that relationship, right? So there is, firstly, we have to see that is not a strong relationship. There is missing trust, or there is missing communication or transparency in that relationship. And therefore, it is likely to be making her angry. अगर उस रिश्ते में इनको अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं मिल रही है, then she needs a very close friend, someone she can vent with. See, she needs to be understood. When a mind is hurting, you just need to be understood. It doesn't have to come from your spouse or the person, the perpetrator who hurt you. जिसने आपको दुख दिया, ये जरूरी नहीं है कि वो ही आपको समझे. आप अपनी किसी अच्छी सहेली or anybody else who understands you, if you can offload your pain with that person, so you will definitely feel lighter. So if she's not getting that understanding with her partner or the person that she's speaking of, she can always find someone else that she feels safe with and get it off her chest.
Yeah, wow. Now you spoke about the four. If you could list down those
The
four
four
kind of relationships. I remember you said dharmic,
useful,
karmic. Yeah,
useful,
useful,
harmful,
harmful, dharmic, karmic.
dharmic and
Okay.
karmic.
Yes. Now, what I want to know is now, whichever category you put your relationship in, there are some relationships that are absolutely toxic. So, how important is it to cut it off? Like a
Very
cancerous growth.
important.
Can we,
Very important.
now, if it's a if it's your partner who is this toxic thing, now in India, we are still not really open to divorce and still not open to living separately. But and we have seen cases where women have come to us and they have been bogged down by this toxic relationship that they are in, but they are not able to get away because of whatever reasons. Either they are financially dependent or there are children that depend on them. What would How would we advise such women? What should they be doing?
So this relationship is not in the harmful and toxic relationship category. This relationship
Okay.
is still in the karmic relationship category. What
Okay.
do I mean by
Okay.
that? What do I mean by that? This woman, in it could be anybody, has
Hmm.
incarnated into this life, created circumstances in her life where she's feeling helpless and she's being abused. So she has come in with a life lesson where she needs to learn to stand up for herself, where she needs to become self reliant. तो जब तक वो इतनी हिम्मत नहीं जोड़ पाती है that she can take that bold step of calling it off, recognizing she's not willing to suffer anymore in her life, ready to walk out, ready to go find employment, or ready to leave the children if need be, or take the children with her and ask for an alimony. There could be n number of situations where the important thing is that her karmic lesson is to become self reliant, not to be abused. If she continues to be abused, तभी मैंने बोला था कि जो karmic रिश्ते हैं, those are long term return on investment. You still have to learn those virtues and capacities. You still have to learn the lessons in your life that you have come into this lifetime for. And it is
Wow.
only when she learns those lessons can she move into these are the harmful, this is a toxic relationship, I'm going to cut it off, I have chosen, I'm going to separate, and I'm going to find my own life.
Wow. So you have to really sit back and understand what relationships are, where each person in the relationship, the balance is, and then for yourself take those decisions or those calls. It is so important. I hope that every woman who's watching us and who's going to look at, hear this recording later on, sits back and actually sits and thinks about all the relationships around her. uh, there are times when you were talking about anger. Anger is like a festering wound always if it's not addressed correctly. And that addressing is what never really happens. And it's a sad fact, but it's a fact nonetheless.
The thing it doesn't happen is because we women, we distract our minds, we busy ourselves too much, we don't have the time for ourselves, we don't want to mentally de-stress and reclutter because then we'll be forced to look at the reality of our lives. And this is one of the prime reasons why we must, every woman needs to have me time every single day, whether it's 20 minutes, whether it's half an hour. I mean, I practice it religiously. I actually put a little hanky on my doorknob outside. The whole family knows if the hanky is on mama's doorknob, then nobody enters my room, whether I'm meditating, whether I'm reflecting on something, whether I'm doing my yoga, whether I am just, thinking deeply or whatever. This is my space and my time. If I don't create it, how will others honor it? Now, I'm saying maybe there are women who don't have such an understanding environment or household, but everybody has a way that they can find that me time. आप मंदिर में जाके बैठ जाओ ना, मंदिर का बहाना बना लो, कुछ भी करो, आप बच्चों को गार्डन में ले जाओ, do whatever needs to. I mean, women can also be very creative. So if you need that half an hour for yourself, find that half an hour and focus on the important issues of your life. If a woman decides my life is not important, I don't need to reflect on it, then we are to blame, not our
Yes.
environment. So, which is why I said, which seeds do I want to sow? My seeds I shed, more loving, more forgiving, more compassionate, more peaceful. Maybe for another woman, those seeds are more self-reliant, not to accept abuse. तो ये
True.
उनको डिसाइड करना है कि मुझे कौन से सीड्स सो करने हैं. And then you can
Absolutely.
see if she's saying, I need to go to the mandir and somebody abuses her and says, तुम्हें रोज रोज जाने की क्या जरूरत है, then she has to stand up for it or develop the courage to stand up for it.
मंदिर ही तो जा रही हूँ, kind of.
बस.
So true, so true. We have some amazing reactions coming in. Swati saying, this is so overwhelming. Thank you so much. Everyone must relate to each word that is being said by Singh ma'am. Thank you, Swati. I'm glad that this has been helpful for you. Bhavna says, good evening. We have Leena who says, love this bit on dharmic relationship. Actually, Leena, I too loved that part. And we have Akansha who's saying that I've learned a lot. We'll try to follow. Shamli is putting a question. She says, why the vicious circle goes on, goes on and keeps getting us into toxic relationships? It's a heavy
Because we
question.
have, yeah, we have recurring patterns. Recurring patterns occur when we are not becoming cognizant of the same error that we are making repeatedly. For example, we have a childhood programming, and that programming could be that maybe we had abusive father, and we who was maybe he was into alcohol or whatever, and was never emotionally present for the children or physically present for the children. So we've got used to the idea of love through an abusive parent or an emotionally absent parent. Now going forward in life, life will bring you abusive and emotionally absent partners repeatedly, so that you have the opportunity to correct that. You have allowed yourself to believe that this is the definition of love. You have allowed yourself to believe I am not worthy of love or attention. You have allowed yourself, these are all false belief systems. And you need to unlearn these belief systems because they are not the truth. The objective of every human in life is to discover their truth. अगर देखा जाए तो पतंजलि योग में कहा जाता है, the reason for all suffering is the distortions of the mind. तो ये distortion है, this belief that I am unworthy, therefore nobody is going to give me attention. And so to become worthy, a woman strives harder and harder and harder, और struggle करेगी, और good girl बनेगी, और भी good girl बनेगी, पर जितनी good girl वो बनती है तो उसे फिर भी attention नहीं मिलता है, फिर भी emotionally
Yeah.
absent partner मिलता है. So we see that it is to unlearn all the wrong belief systems that life brings us as an opportunity repeatedly. It is a loving instinct from the universe. Your law of attraction will bring that same untruth to you repeatedly. So you have an opportunity to see it, observe it, correct it, and embrace your real truth.
Wow. Wow. As you were saying, I was just reminded of an incident that happened just yesterday. And I think when the lady calls me back, I will have something, useful to tell her when she calls me. This is about a toxic relationship. And I was talking to her about whether she wants to get out of it. And her reaction stunned me because she said, I love him very much. And I know that nobody can love him the way I love him, and I know he will come back to me. And for a second, after all the tears that she shed when she told me this, I had for a second I thought this is a hopeless case. She's not seeing reality the way it is being put to her. And it's like martyr for pain or punishment, whatever you call it. It's very sad, but yes, I think this is a conscious decision that everybody needs to make, sit up and notice, see things that are happening around them. Wonderful, wonderful.
It's the result of, Vandana, so much unconscious conditioning, which is so damaging for us.
Absolutely,
And I would
absolutely.
really urge people who are listening, if they want, my book, The Seven Karma Codes, addresses a lot of these issues. And if they are drawn to it and they feel drawn to it, they should read it so they can find some of the answers, because nobody should have to suffer in their lives. Nobody is
Yes,
suffering. God didn't design this human life for suffering. We suffer because we are living with untruths. दर्द उसी चीज से होता है जो सच नहीं है. So if something is causing me pain, I have to sit and ask myself, what is this teaching me? What am I not seeing? And I have to
Absolutely.
remove that blindfold from my eyes to be able to see clearly.
Wow. Wow, this was amazing, and time has just sped past. We have come to a conclusion of our show, and I ask all my guests this, that with all that they have shared with us through the entire 45-minute conversation that we have had. But before we leave, I want my guests to give our women 5 things that they can keep in mind, that they can hopefully practice, that they can hopefully use to change their world around. So, if there are 5 things that you could share with my women.
Okay, I can share even 10, but I know we have very little time. So, if these are the 5 things, the first I will definitely, I've already mentioned one, so I will make it six. The first one is me time. Everybody, please create your 20-minute or half an hour slot of me time every day. Then, there is one simple method that I use for bringing peace to my mind, and that is sky gazing. Anybody who has a little window or a balcony in their house, so you just look at the sky, even if it's 2 minutes. कि आप काम के बीच में also, when you're running around, take that pause, look at the sky, become the moving clouds, become the flying birds, become the swaying trees, and you will find that instantly you will create a lot of space within you. Can be done anytime, anywhere. So sky gazing is a very powerful one. The second thing I suggest is empty mind writing. And this is also for one of the ladies who had a very heavy heart and was feeling misunderstood. That before you go to bed at night, take a notebook or a journal, and without thinking, just put pen to paper and let your hand write. Now, when you write in this manner without thinking, you are able to access your subconscious mind, and you're able to access all the things that hurt you, that you have repressed. जो आपने suppress कर दिए हैं, जो you're not aware about them, but they are there and they need to be addressed. They will get vented out in your writing. So if you're feeling hurt and you don't have somebody else to talk about, you can always write it. And if you don't feel safe, you can always tear up that paper, destroy it, burn it, do whatever you want to if you don't want somebody to read it. But this will relieve you and it will make you feel much better. Done at night, it will also allow you a good night's sleep. There is another one which I call confessional soul healing. Many times it happens that we either think ill of other people, or we have some horrible feelings about other people. Maybe not jealousy, but revenge, rage. We will not express it, but we think of it in our heads, bad thoughts about other people, and they can become really heavy on our hearts. And I suggest that confessing that we had that bad feeling. Now, I may not be able to confess to anyone, but just be ishq ko aap mante hain, you just close your eyes. At a soul level, you confess to that God or that Isht of yours, and you say, I had this terrible thought today. And then you say the simple 4-line Ho'oponopono prayer, which is, I am sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, I love you. ताकि वहां पे एक नया कार्मिक कनेक्शन ना बन जाए आपका, जिससे और दुख मिलेगा आपको. So
Wow.
please practice this soul confessional healing. And you must process your emotions every single day, because there is so much emotional repression that women have. And a simple way is to ask yourself every night, what hurt me today? And allow it to come to the surface. Or what am I feeling so upset about? And I know we have a lack of time right now, but for anyone who's interested, on my Suzy Singh YouTube channel, I have many videos that actually step by step will teach you how to process your emotions. तो आप वो देख सकते हैं. You can do deeper work. But please, आपके अंदर जितनी ये feelings हैं उनको address कर दो, ताकि आपका दिल और मन दोनों हल्का हो सके. You must be able to honor yourselves by respecting your life and honoring the life you have, and you are not meant to suffer. I don't know why we have this. Women tend to think that we are here to suffer, and we have to give up that belief about ourselves.
Yes.
So that is the fourth one. And there is a fifth very simple one, which I call the infinity walking meditation. इट्स वेरी सिंपल. आप किसी भी कमरे में अपनी दो चेयर्स रख लीजिए, एक facing each other like this. And then in the infinity sign on a number 8 sign, you start walking towards north like this in an infinity. Come this way, walk this way. And as you are walking, if you do this for just 15 to 20 minutes, and you can just chant, if you have a chant, Hari Om karna hai aapko, Satnam karna hai, or if you have no chant and you don't believe in anything, you're an atheist, let's say, तो आप सिर्फ peace, 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 peace बोल के अगर आप 15-20 मिनट ऐसे नंबर 8 में चलेंगे, aware of your footsteps, aware of that chant, trust me, you will be at peace. So if you have no one to confide in, if you have nothing else to do, तो ये तो आप कर ही सकती हैं अपने मन को शांत करने के लिए.
Wow, this is so amazing. I've actually jotted it down and I'm sharing it here. And I hope everybody gets to read this and understand this and start doing it. Thank you so much, Suzy. You have been amazing. You have completely blown us away, and this is like a wonderful closure to this topic that we had for the month. And I can't think of a better way to end this discussion. Decluttering our mind and our relationships is so very important, and for women particularly so, because we, knowingly unknowingly, we are the keepers of the home, we are the keepers of everyone's heart, we are the keepers of everyone's peace. So whether we like it or not, whether we enjoy it or not, that is what we deal with. And if we are a little bit more aware, like you said, I think the going will be easy. Thank you so much. You have been wonderful. All our, the very powerful tips, says Julie. Dr. Kalpa says Infinity Walk is amazing. Hina says beautiful session, ma'am. Truly love you. Pooja says beautiful session. Shalu says thank you and necessary for the, thank you for the time. Deepthi says amazing. Thank you so much, Suzy Singh. And I hope we have many more occasions to call you and have a chat with you. I hope once the lockdown ends, we can also see you in person, because I know I personally have
Mm.
learned a lot today. Thank you so much. So, yes, this is the end. You wanted to say something?
I just want to say one thing, Vandana, which is I hope that every woman can also be the keeper of her goddess status.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very important. So, with that, we end this session and we shall come back with a new session next month. Until then, all of you take care of yourselves. Be good, stay safe, stay happy. And
Thank you.